You're listening to Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions on product and business strategy. And now, here's your host, Bob Caporelli.
Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies, just like yours. Welcome back, strategy creators. This is episode 87. Wow, that's a lot, huh? Who would have thought there's this many questions on strategy? Well, not me, but here we are, and still we have plenty of questions to go, and no end in sight, which is good because I don't know what I'd do if we had too much of an end. In any event, I wanted to make sure I reminded you that we have gone to a bi-weekly schedule here on Dear Strategy. So I'm going to be doing this podcast every other week, released every other Monday. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is, as most of you know, especially the loyal listeners, I do a blog post with each one of these episodes. That's featured on dearstrategy.net/blog. And it is a full article that goes with each episode, not just show notes or anything like that. So it's a lot of work, right? And so what I'm going to be doing is the podcast every other week, and then the blog every other week. So it'll be podcast, blog, podcast, blog, podcast, blog. So you'll get content every week, but that'll just give me a little bit of leg room here so that I can stretch out and do some other things, like running the business that sponsors this podcast, which is called Strategy Generation Company. And we, of course, provide strategy training and consulting and coaching and services to companies large and small. And so there's a lot of work involved with all that. And so I want to make sure that I don't spread myself too thin. So every other week on the podcast, every other week on the blog. Look forward to having you as a continued listener / reader / subscriber. Okay, with all that, let's get to this week's question. And speaking of the training company that I own, Strategy Generation Company, yeah, that's what this question is all about. So I've decided to do a question that was, yes, direct, but not necessarily built for this show. It's not like somebody submitted it to be answered on the show, but it is a question I get asked quite a bit, and I got asked this quite directly. So as I try and promote the company and sell more of the core service which we provide, which is training services for strategy development, strategy creation, mostly in the product strategy, marketing strategy, and business strategy realms. So in doing that, I get often asked, like, what is strategy training? Which is not the question I asked here, but the bigger question I get asked is, why do we need it? Right? So that translates into Dear Strategy. Why do I need strategy training? And it's a very logical question, right? When I look at companies that are looking for training services, let's talk in the medium to large size company realm, right? Maybe 500 million in revenue and above. These are companies that usually have multiple people in every given function or any given function. So they have multiple product managers, multiple salespeople, multiple marketing people. And that's the kind of scale that they get to when they start to need group training, right? And it's really common to say, well, I have a function and I want to train that function on what it is that they're supposed to be doing. So product managers need product management training. And that training basically steps product managers through the framework of their job. So it teaches them in usually 2 or 3 days all the skills at a high level that they need to do their job. So you're getting a bit of role definition and you're getting a bit of skill development as well. And you could say the same thing as marketing training, right? Or sales training or operational training or finance training. Like there's any number of different things. So people are in a function and they get functional training, which teaches them the skills at a high level to do their jobs. And sometimes you can get into deeper level skill development, right? So maybe for product management, just for an example, you'll have a product management course that's an overview course. And maybe you get into some specifics of the product management job, like product development or product launch or those types of things. So you have individual classes on that as well. Most of those classes, though, are still transferring of knowledge and skills, right? And what I mean by that is, you go in and you learn about what you're supposed to do. You learn at a high level what it is that you're supposed to do. And then you're expected after the class to go and apply that to your job. And I love that kind of training, by the way. So I've done it for many, many years. the company that I have does that type of training as well. We have 4 classes in what we call the knowledge-based realm, right? So we teach people presentation skills and strategic skills and business management skills, and even business creativity skills. So that's like 4 knowledge-based classes that I have. So definitely not looking down on that type of training at all. But here's the challenge that companies run into. When all they do is provide skill-based training, knowledge-based training, I'd rather call it that, the expectation is that people will then have to go on their own and apply that new knowledge or apply those skills to their jobs. And that's where things get tricky, right? Because most of the time, people are busy and, life is happening and things are going fast and, you're getting called to here and there and the other place. A product manager, for example, is expected to support sales and technical problems and quality problems and development and managing the life cycle and get called into monthly meetings and, the results aren't where they should be. So we need you to fix this and on and on and on and on and on. And so although they can take some of the skills that they learned in those big overview classes and remember some of it and apply it in specific situations, it's not the kind of training that they're going to be able to say, I learned how to do this and now I'm going to do it, right? It's like you're getting tidbits of knowledge and you're applying them where and when you see fit. Again, valuable, but not game-changing, right? Not game-changing. Where the game-changing stuff comes in is where you can do a training that I like to call a project-based training, right? Where you learn not only the skills how to do something and the framework of how to do something, but you're actually doing it in real time. And after the workshop or program, you're actually able to take what you've started and apply it directly to the job. That's what strategy training is all about. So when I talk about strategy training, I'm really talking about project-based training, and that's exactly what we call it on our Strategy Generation Company website, which is basically, look, if you're a product manager, for example, you could learn all the stuff you need to do for your job, but the biggest thing you need to do for your role is develop a strategy or plan for your business, right? And I would say that of any business leader. So we do 3 types of strategy trainings. We do product strategy, marketing strategy, and business strategy. And they're all aimed at functions that require a plan to be successful at their jobs, right? So if you're a marketing manager, for example, and you just, go about life and just do any marketing task that comes your way, it's going to be random. So there's nothing tying all of your different actions together. You're going to do an ad and do a podcast and do a video and do SEO and but if they're just like kind of reactive actions, then they're not really all collectively helping you to achieve some overall goal. When you get into strategy training, what you're teaching people how to do is say, hey, what's my goal for the business? What am I trying to accomplish in my function or my business? And then helping people to put together an actual plan with real initiatives and real actions that will enable you to achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve. That's the core of what a manager needs to do. And strategy training allows you to not only learn that process, but actually start to do it, right? So when we do our strategy training workshops, we're actually asking people to come with their specific products or their specific markets that they want to do strategies for, their specific businesses that they want to do strategy for. We ask them to do homework, right? Bring actual analysis on those businesses. And then we teach them how to do the process by doing it on the business or product or market that you brought into the workshop. So it's a series of, we teach and then you do, and then we teach and then you do. And after 2 days of that, you've learned the process, but you've actually applied the process to your product, market, or business. And then there's a project afterwards. You have to go and finish that work, right? And you come out of the program, which is usually about 8 weeks or so, not full time, but it's the 2 days of workshop with then some coaching afterwards. But you come out of the program in 8 weeks with an actual strategy for the product that you're managing, or the actual strategy for the market that you're responsible for, the actual strategy for the business that you're managing. Now you can take any of those knowledge-based workshops that you did and you're putting them into context, because now you're executing on a plan. You actually have something that you have to do, right? And so now the knowledge-based workshops have someplace to live. And that's the game changer. I'm probably rambling because I'm so passionate about this topic, but what I can tell you about this is wherever I've done strategy training inside of companies, it moves the blessed needle, right? That's what you're trying to get out of this. Like, you want training to actually have a result. And strategy training does that because you come out with real plans that you could execute on. So that's why people need strategy training. Now, I can go on about a lot of other things too, because unfortunately, even with all of that value, most companies don't think that they do need it because A, they don't know it exists, or B, they think that like being strategic or having a plan is an inherent part of what managers should be able to do. So we shouldn't have to teach them that. That's something that they just should be able to do. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of the time, people do not have an inherent ability to put together formal strategies for their business. Or even if they learned it somewhere, they never had the chance to apply it. Or even if they've done all of that, sometimes they just don't have the discipline to do it because there's so many things coming at them all at once, right? And so the reactive stuff is always going to take control over the planning stuff, right? Planning is like longer term. It doesn't get you immediate results. So people see it as more optional over the stuff that has to be done today. And so what happens with that is they get into this cadence of fighting fires instead of planning. And because of all that, they don't think that the training on strategy is something that they need to invest in. They don't even know that they need it. But in fact, what ends up happening is once you learn how to put together a plan and you put together a plan, a lot of the firefighting actually subsides because you know what to say no to, right? You know the things that you shouldn't be focusing on. And that allows you to focus on, laser focus, in fact, on executing the plan to get the results that you have in your goals. So there's just so many benefits to it. And I wanted to dedicate this episode to it because I just think it's such an important topic and such an important thing that people should be tuned into. So with all of that said, I hope that this answer, even though it seems like it might be a little self-serving, like, you need strategy training, so call me. Yes, maybe that's true. It's a bit of an advertisement, but it's really important because if you don't invest in learning how to plan, then your actions are going to be random and you're just not going to get where you need to go. So keep that in mind as you go through your strategic journey. And while you're going through your strategic journey, don't forget to make time for the plan. And don't forget, if you're interested in strategy training, to go visit us at strategygeneration.com, and you'll see all of the different offerings that we have in project workshops for strategy training and also the knowledge workshops as well. So we hope to see you there and also back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caparelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.